What's up guys, it's StrongBoys19 here. This is going to be, once again, an inspired video from Free to Be Who I Be. This is going to be a video of talking about Trivium's latest album entitled What the Dead Men Say. I have always said that I stopped reviewing new albums for each year, but I had reviewed Green Day's Father of All because I was very curious to revisit the band. But now that since we've heard the news about Trivium's latest album, I might as well give you guys my thoughts and reaction to this album. So this is the follow-up to 2017's The Sin and the Sentence, released through Roadrunner Records. Roadrunner Records has always been one of my favourite record labels of all time, and I've always been a big fan of Trivium, pretty much since the era of The Crusade when that album came out, and I was so obsessed with Ascendancy. I really did love the chemistry between the rest of the band in their own separate roles. You got the incredible musicianship to the riffs and the production, some of the best metal songs of all time. Ascendancy stands out for me as my favourite Trivium album. There are other fantastic albums that the band had released, including Shogun and the incredibly underrated Vengeance Falls. In my opinion, that's one of their best albums. Now, the last time that I had reviewed a Trivium album, it was from Silence in the Snow back in 2015, and I thought that was a good album, but it was not one of the best. So when I had seen the reviews about this new album, I decided to check it out since I had not gone back to the band for a very long time, and I'm very glad that I did. Just like the previous album of The Sin and the Sentence, lots of the lyricism was inspired by different experiences the band went through. This album is 10 tracks and it's 45 plus minutes in length. The production was done by Josh Wilbur, and it's safe to say that I'm very glad that Trivium did release an album to critical acclaim. But here's the thing, in my opinion, this new album is not like one of the top best ever Trivium albums, because a lot of people had celebrated the album so highly, and I can understand why. I have seen some other reviews from other people about the album, and they were really positive about it. I will say my thoughts about this album. So, this album, I thought, musically, is pretty much similar to Sin and the Sentence. You've got these fantastic arrangements of various guitar riffs, and the musicianship, just like the last few albums, is staggering. This is definitely a progression where Trivium decided to go, and for me, throughout my time listening to the album, I think it worked incredibly well from start to finish. So a lot of the lyrics to this album deal on different stuff. Some amazing instrumentation. There's a lot of these riffs that were so low tuned from the guitars, and at points it can be quite thrashy to some technicality. And I gotta say that the riffs from Corey and Matt on this whole album, lots of these riffs are fantastic. I love the dexterity from the songs as they went through, the different time signatures and various structures. The tracks themselves, tracks like Amongst the Shadows and the Stones, which is lyrically based about the war, and I love this track's instrumentation, so chaotic and very deep. This album does contain one of Matt Heafy's very best vocals, like on the song Catastrophist. It's mostly very gloomy and moody. Catastrophist deals with the theme of humanity in a crisis, and as with other lyrics go, The Defiant being one of my favourites on this album. It was inspired by, as I'm looking at it right now, R. Kelly's documentary and abuse enabling, and I thought the songs themselves have a sound of their own. The guitar solos, both done by Corey and Matt. Corey's were just so stunning and phenomenal. You can hear a lot of these notes that were heard completely well from the beginning to the end. Same goes with Matt's solos, they were incredible as well. But what really stands out for me from the rest of the band is Alex's drumming. Alex Bent, being in his close to late 20s at this point, he is a big powerhouse. I love the various and flavorful, if that's the right word, type of drum beats and fills. Lots of these groovy ones to blast beats, and the syncopation of the riffs between Corey and Matt's bass tone is very, very good. So full and beefy sounding. For other lyrics go, Sickness Unto You, which is one of my favourites on this album, along with Amongst the Shadows and the Stones and The Defiant. This one lyrically deals about Matt's dog that he loved all his life, that he had to put him down, and the lyrics really reflect that, and I can feel for the guy. But for me, possibly my favourite song of the album is Bending the Arc to Fear. It's the surveillance aspect of modern society, and the vocals from Matt, especially with Corey's on the growls, they were awesome, really, really good. So if I have to think of some weaknesses about this album, I'm not a fan of the song Bleed Into Me. I thought the first half of the album started things really strongly, but it's not, like, to me, as good as the previous tracks, and even one of the later songs. It's not a bad song, but not one of the favourites. Same goes with Scattering the Ashes, which strangely immediately reminds me of a Bullet for My Valentine song, and I used to be a big fan of them until they've completely lost me with Gravity, and I lost total interest in the band. But that's just me. Is another one of the songs that doesn't really do much for me, but in terms of the other tracks of this album, this is very, very good. I would still prefer the earlier albums from Trivium in their entire discography, but I would like to see your thoughts about this in the comments down below. And also, the production is so great. I think the guitars sound incredible. Same goes with the big bashing tone of the drums. This whole album is worth the recommendation. To me, Trivium have not made a bad album, not even Silence in the Snow. I think they were one of those bands that really started to become even more varied and so much more of a progressive band in terms of sound and songwriting. That's what I love about Trivium the most. So, in terms for a rating, I am going to give What the Dead Men Say by Trivium an 8 out of 10. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll keep you guys posted for more videos in the near future.